Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. I'm Bill.
I'm Seth.
I'm Jenna.
I'm Chris.
And today I think we're going to talk about a couple of things. Indiana Jones' latest movie, The Dial of Destiny. And we should talk about the second Avatar as well, I think.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Has everybody seen that?
I have, yes.
I have.
Okay, well, good.
Avatar doesn't interest me that much.
Well, maybe we'll change that today, Seth.
You can try and sell me. I'll close the...
Okay, and I assume Indiana Jones just came out, so I assume maybe I'm the only one that's seen it so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, and this is going to be the one you have to convince me, because as entertaining as Crystal Skull was, and as much as I love the Indiana Jones movies, I'm just scared of it being disappointing.
I think Bill might have some good news for you there.
Yes, it wasn't disappointing at all. In fact, everybody in the theater clapped at the end of it. So if that tells you anything, everybody that we saw it with seemed to really like it. And both Linda and I really liked it. Katie really liked it, thought it was great. There's some cameos from some fan favorite characters from past shows in there, which is great. And this one's a little bit different. And it kind of hit me differently too, because in this one, well, first of all, let me say that the special effects, the AI special effects that they used for this, stunning, jaw-dropping. So they de-aged Indiana Jones because there's a whole sequence. We can't hear you, Beth. You're muted. Are you supposed to be? There he goes.
Because Harrison Ford is 200 years old?
Yes.
And stud?
Yeah. So, but they de-aged him to look like he's like, I don't know, 40 in his 40s, maybe 50s. And there's a whole opening sequence in the film that goes on for quite a while, maybe half hour. I don't know I can't say exactly, but in that film, he's, young Indiana Jones fighting the Nazis. And
so did they go back to like kind of scenes that were in one of the previous films, that same era then, or is
it's the same era?
It's another old run-in with the Nazis.
Yeah, it's that same era, but it's a whole thing that we've never seen before.
Okay. And
go ahead, Seth. It looks like you're going to say something.
I was going to say at some point, do you want to watch the trailer?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's spin up the trailer.
All right.
Seth's got it. So that is good to hear that the de-aging CGI, I'll say while Seth is getting that up, is continuing to improve, because we've seen really bad takes and now from the pictures that I've seen, it's like looking at a young Harrison Ford, which is weird.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
So, all
right, go ahead.
Here we go.
Oop.
No, never mind. We're good.
I'm retiring.
Well, in that case, what are we drinking?
Same for the goddaughter.
Dad told me you found something on a train during the war. A dial that could change the course of history.
Why are you chasing the thing that drove your father crazy? Don't move.
Please get out of here. Stop! Sorry.
Helena! Dr. Jones, get him. Hitler made mistakes, and with this, I will correct them all. You stole it. Then you stole it.
And then I stole it. It's called capitalism.
This way! Fasten your seatbelt. There might be some turbulence.
You've taken your chances, made your mistakes. And now a final triumph.
Indy! Give him hell, Indiana Jones! A few times in my life, I've seen things. I've been tortured with voodoo. Been shot 9 times, including once by your father. Sorry! But I've been looking for this all my life.
That's pretty exciting.
It was, and so you saw a few scenes of him in there looking de-aged, and
Can I say what a real life plot twist it's been? That, you know, when Indiana Jones first came out, and it's Nazis in the occult, we're like, oh yeah, that's cool. And then in the last 30 years, they'd be like, yeah, no, Nazis were really into the occult, like really into the occult.
Right.
So not exactly too far from reality.
Right.
Except for what they found.
Yeah. So anyway, as I was saying, this one kind of hit me a little bit differently because it was Indiana Jones who's retiring. And of course, I'm retiring this year myself. And, Linda and I were talking at the show that we've kind of aged along with Harrison Ford and the Indiana Jones character. Because when the first one came out, I think it was 1981, if I remember right, which was like the year before Linda and I got married. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So, Seth, you're muted again.
Stop it, Seth.
The year I was born.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Just giving away my birth year on the internet. Yeah. Whoops.
Right. There's one clue we need to solve your password.
Yeah.
So so it hit me a little differently. It was kind of a fun thing, to see him. Here he is retiring, and so this particular episode takes place in 1969, and at the start of the episode, he's in his apartment in I think it's in New York. It must be in New York. And they're having a big parade for the astronauts that landed on the moon. And so
that's cool.
1969. And so he goes into the office. They have a big retirement thing for him, and so he kind of, they give him like one of those, the traditional retirement clock thing, the standard old fashioned clock with a little movement stuff. So he takes it and he leaves and he's walking out. And of course, it's Indiana Jones, right? What does he value? He values antiquities. He doesn't value this modern, gift crap, right? So he's on his way home and he sees some street hobo standing next to him, I guess, there at the street corner, and he just says, "Here," and he hands it to him.
Yeah, that sounds classic Indiana Jones.
It does, right? So, but it's fun. So he ends up meeting his goddaughter, and she is kind of like an expert in antiquities, like he is. She just got a degree in it. She's the daughter of a good friend of his that passed away, and but unlike Indiana Jones, well, I mean, remember the first ones where he's like, especially with Short Round, they're looking for fortune and glory.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's kind of what his goddaughter's like. where she's not trying to save the antiquities to get him into a museum. She's just trying to steal whatever she can and auction it off to the highest bidder. So, of course, that kind of rubs Indy wrong. So those two are kind of at loggerheads from the beginning on.
Yeah.
But it's a good romp. She eventually, by the end of it, comes around. And so the whole thing is they're chasing this Dial of Destiny, which was a device created by Archimedes back in, what was it, 221 BC or something like that, BCE. And so Archimedes apparently broke it into two pieces and separated the two pieces because he was afraid of its power and afraid that it would get in the wrong hands and be used for the wrong purpose. So, of course, the Nazis won it, right? And so at the beginning of the film, this whole pre-sequence that we see, we should probably put up a little spoiler warning here if you want to. Actually, I can probably do that just so that
I can put up the spoiler warning. I know how to do things.
All right. So there we go. Yeah. So at the beginning of the movie, when we regress back to when Indy's in his 40s or whatever, he's fighting the Nazis, and they got a train load of stuff, and they're about to lose the war, but they're trying to take all these valuable artifacts that they've stolen and pilfered over the time that they were, running things. They've got them on a train, and they're trying to take him to some bunker or something, and so he's trying to stop it. And one of the things, the prized possession on the train, is supposedly the spear that was used to stab Christ. Yeah. And so it's supposedly got remnants of Christ's blood on it and all this kind of stuff. Well, Indy and his buddy, who's the father of his goddaughter, because this is back time before he died, they both see it and realize that it's a fake, and but there's another guy on the train, a Nazi scientist.
Nazis
who,
everywhere.
What's that?
Nazis everywhere.
Yeah.
Nazis.
He also knows that the sword's a fake, and he said, what I really want is this Dial of Destiny, and he's got like one piece of it, and they want to get the other piece, and so he's trying to get the Nazis to fund this research to go get it. And well, long story short, Indy steals it. It's hidden for it's hidden in the archives of the university for whatever, 20 years, 25 years, something like that. And till his goddaughter comes along, and she says, well, I've got my dad's research, and you don't realize this, but he figured out where the other piece is. He's got this clues in his book, and we can get it. And so that kind of kicks the whole adventure off. And then the whole time, this Nazi scientist is also following Harrison Ford, trying to get the dial himself. And eventually, of course, as you might expect, they do get it, and they find both pieces. And of course, the Nazis there to surprise them and take it, as they do. Mm-hmm. Now,
nobody expects the German Nazis,
right? And what's interesting about this, as contrasts the previous ones, is the previous Indiana Jones, the artifacts have always had some sort of a supernatural component to it, right? Well, this is not like that at all. This is a mechanical scientific device made by Archimedes, and supposedly just using mathematics and these dials, this thing is able to predict the time and location that a time fissure will open, that can be used to take a person back in time. And so it's all science, which is kind of appropriate because this era that they're in, 1969, we've gone to the moon. It's kind of an era of science and exploration and that sort of stuff. So they go down the science route. So I do have a couple of issues with it.
As you do with most time things.
As you do.
So Indiana Jones isn't scientifically accurate? Is that what you're trying to tell our audience, Bill?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that.
Get in the comments, people.
Yeah.
He said it, not any of us.
No. So here's my issue with it is their own description of how this works. It just doesn't make sense with what happens. So this device opens up a time fissure. Now the time fissures that are opened by this device are up in the sky. They don't open on the ground apparently. So you have to have a plane to get to them, which, prevents Archimedes from using it for anything useful. Right. So,
yeah.
So the Nazis get it. And the Nazis have planes. Or this Nazi scientist has a plane. So they take it up. What the guy wants to do is he wants to go back in time to like 1939, to about the time of the rise of Hitler. Mm-hmm. And the old go back in time and kill Hitler thing?
Yeah.
Trope. Well, this kind of turns that on its ear because this is a Nazi guy that wants to go back in time and kill Hitler.
Interesting.
Yes. And why does he want to do that? He wants to do that because he thinks Hitler made too many mistakes. He let too many things slip by. I don't know. He wasn't mean enough.
If you replace Hitler, maybe the Nazis will become successful.
Yes. So he wants to go back and kill Hitler, take Hitler's place, become the Führer, and fix all of the mistakes that Hitler made so that, in the modern era, Nazis will reign supreme. So that's his whole thing.
I mean, you'd have to take a wrong turn and end up in a Tyrannosaurus Rex mouth, though.
Yes. Well,
how do you control which time period you go back to?
Exactly. So that's what's kind of not clear. So apparently there's kind of a brief explanation. I guess you set the dials on there as to what year you want to go back to, and that it points you in the direction of the nearest time fissure that's going to open and take you back there. Right? Okay. So I'm okay with all of that. All right. So as they're heading towards the fissure and they almost get to the fissure, Indiana Jones notices something. And that's a whole digression thing. But anyway, I won't go into that. But anyway, he notices something and he says, continental drift. Archimedes had no clue. He had no idea of continental drift. That means that his mathematics by this day in time would be off by an order of magnitude. And if you go through this fissure, we don't know where we'll end up. But you most certainly won't end up in 1939 Berlin.
Yeah. It was based off the maps and the locations of everything at the time.
Right.
Which have changed significantly over the years. So
right.
Enough to where that wouldn't be accurate.
Right. So sure enough, they go through the fissure. And where do they end up? Not in 1939 Germany. They end up in 221 BCE with the Archimedes fighting the Romans. And this big battles going on. And so here comes this World War II German plane flying through this fissure and flying over this crowd. And of course, it's being chased by there's a kid in this one that kind of takes the place of Short Round from one of the original series. And so he's chasing them in another plane, trying to catch them. And so both these planes come through, and so they're flying over, and there's all of these, Roman ships with big sails on them and everything, and there's these catapults launching balls of fire, and these giant metal bolts. Looks like something out of Game of Thrones that they use to try to take out the dragons that they're firing at the ships. And so they look up and they see these two planes flying around. And what do they think they are? They think they're dragons.
I figured they think they're signs from the gods to stop.
Yeah. No, in this one they look up and they're like, dragons. They've got dragons, and so they start shooting bolts at the planes, and so the bolt will come flying through the plane and hit somebody, and
how would that work? How would that possibly work?
Right.
You just got to go with entertainment, Seth.
Right.
That's
be in the fantasy.
No, that's like seeing a bird in the air and having a stone, and like while it's flying on, I'm gonna hit that thing.
Some people were really good at throwing things. Okay.
So what I would have found most amusing right there is if, like, when the planes came through the fissure, Archimedes just looks up and he's like, "It was an alpha release, you assholes."
Well, as the planes are coming through the fissure, and we cut to Archimedes in his lab with a partially assembled dial of destiny, and so the problem I have with this thing is that so the Indian and his goddaughter. They bail out of the plane right before it crashes. The other plane comes down so that they have another plane to fly back through the fissure, which is not going to last too long. It's starting to fade out, so they've got to get back up in the air and get out of there if they want to get back. So they land, and the goddaughter figures out that that the thing that Archimedes designed, this dial of destiny, was designed such that no matter what you asked it to do, it would only direct you to a fissure that would take you back to Archimedes' time. He created it as a way to get help for them to defeat the Romans. He wanted help from the future to come back and help him defeat the Romans. But so my question is, if they already said that he didn't take into account continental drift, how would any of that have worked? How would he have gotten people back to his time? Because the calculations would have been off. They maybe would have gone to the time of the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
What's that, Chris?
No, that was the point. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing that got me, because there was inconsistent story plot device there, right? Either continental drift plays a part and you don't go back to where you want to go because that wasn't taken into account, but you can't then turn around and say he designed it such that he's going to bring you back to this exact point in time if he didn't take a continental drift into account.
So this seems pretty par for the course for Indiana Jones then, though, because they're focusing on kind of the adventure and the fun of it and everything like that, and they don't want to get caught up in the details, right, of the science. So
right,
that seems pretty. I mean, it'd be different if we were talking, a Star Trek movie or something like that, where they do the deep dives into the hows and the whys and the whens and the consequences and all that other stuff. But in Indiana Jones, they're like, yeah, we'll just say that continental drift is, why this isn't going to work out, and we're just going to keep running with the movie. That seems pretty par for Indiana Jones, but
something I like. This makes me think about something that I hadn't thought about with other Indiana Jones movies, in that there's kind of no point to the movie.
No, it's an adventure. It's not. Yeah, there's no underlying.
What I mean is, like, even if Indiana hadn't been there, if the bad guys had just been allowed to do whatever the hell they wanted to do, it still would have had the same outcome in the end.
Yeah.
Like,
there's an underlying point. All Nazis are bad and deserve to die.
Yeah. Well,
that's a consistent theme.
No, but consider the first movie. And like, if the Nazis just would have gotten the Ark of the Covenant, they still would have ended up in exactly the same point at the end of the movie, opened it, killed all themselves, and then it would just be like, It would just be
It's
like
also
a
fair.
documentary
Indy
later
could have
on.
done nothing, and they would have all died anyways.
Yeah. It's like we could have just been watching a documentary later on, and it's like we found this island full of Nazis that all melted, and we don't know why. We think it has something to do with this box, but we aren't opening it.
Right. Yeah. So
we have famed architect Indiana Jones to tell us what this is and why it was bad.
Yeah.
Jenna, were you going to say something?
Nope.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Jenna. No, nothing.
Just that, it's just part of it's fantasy. It's a fantasy to go in and be a dungeoneering and just enjoy it.
I would say that's maybe why we haven't noticed these things happening in real life. It's just because anytime some group of Nazis tries to screw with a thing, they all die. That's why we don't have supernatural Nazis. It's just they're bad at the occult.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, so I mentioned before that there was a thing that Indy noticed, and that led him to the whole continental drift.
Save that, because save that.
Okay.
I want at least one surprise or something.
Okay, all right, I'll save that.
Save that one.
Yep. All right.
But on the lookout for that.
But it's a great story. And at the end, you're not quite sure what's going to happen to Indiana because he's retired. His son died in Vietnam in the Vietnam War. We find out during the show.
So
I was going to ask what happened to Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah. He died in the Vietnam War, and Marion, his wife, they're separated because the strain of the son's death kind of broke apart their marriage, and so they're currently separated.
They're an incredibly strong relationship.
Yeah, and so when he gets back to Aristotle's time, he tells his goddaughter, I'm just going to stay here. I don't want to go back. And he's actually been fatally shot by one of the Nazis shortly before this. And so he's kind of bleeding out. And they've stopped the bleeding. But she said, you're not going to make it if you stay here. You've been shot. There's no medicine here that's going to help you. And he goes, I don't care. He goes, I've spent my life studying this. And what's that quote from one of the other Indiana Jones? I think it's from the Raiders of the Lost Ark, where the guy says, we're not that German or the French guy that's trying to open up the Ark. Before they get it to Hitler, and he says, you and I are just passing through history. This is history, kind of a thing. That's what Indy kind of references, and he says, this is history, and this is where I've spent my life studying this, and this is where I want to stay and live out the rest of my life.
Once again, Indiana Jones running away from his relationship issues instead of addressing them, healing them.
Right.
What would be really good though is if they're after that scene, the big tearful goodbye, there's an after credits scene down in the temple at the end of The Last Crusade, and a time fisher opens up and he just slips out, grabs the cup, takes a drink, and leaves again.
That would be awesome. Yeah. And sadly, there's no after credits scene in this show.
Well, we're done. Indiana's done.
Yep. So, yeah, but it does end well, and I think everybody will love the ending the way it ends, and it's just a great romp. There's the ubiquitous chase scene as they're chasing after each other. One's got the artifact, and the other one's trying to get it, and a lot of that going on. Lots of Nazis dying, which how can you not love that? And just a good old fashioned typical Indiana Jones movie. Great summer entertainment fare.
Got a question for you, Bill.
Yes.
You said the de-aged Harrison Ford was really good.
Yes.
Would you watch a whole Indiana Jones movie?
I would.
De-age?
He won't allow it. I think he signed something that says they are not allowed to use his image for anything, like in video.
I don't think they would, because they're not. At some point you want to end the arc, right? You want to be done with Indiana Jones, but if you return to it, it would probably exist in that same world, but I don't think it would be about Indiana Jones anymore.
No, and that's kind of what I've read too, is that their intention for this is the end of Indiana Jones, that they may make other movies in this genre that are related, using some of the same characters. Like, for example, there's some talk right now about doing one with the actor that played Short Round.
Oh my God. The same, the actor that had his breakout and everything,
Right. And so that's possible. They're looking at some other things. Interestingly, when this film starts, you see the logos for both Disney and Paramount Pictures. And that kind of surprised me. And I knew that Paramount Pictures had, was the one that filmed the originals, the first 4 movies, right? Paramount Pictures did that with Lucasfilms, right? And so now, of course, Lucasfilms was bought by Disney. So I was kind of surprised to see the Paramount logo on the 5th film. And so I did a little bit of research into that. And so apparently apparently Disney and Paramount had to come to an agreement, because by law, Paramount Pictures owns the distribution right for the first 4 films. And so what the agreement was is that Paramount will continue to have the distribution rights for the first 4 films, but will give those films to Disney so that Disney can have them on their Disney Plus. Paramount Plus will also have the first 4 films on their network, and Paramount Plus can decide about any other distribution deals. And then going forward, any of the movies that Disney makes, Disney will have the distribution rights for, but Paramount will also get a small cut of the profits of those films. So
it always comes down to the money.
Yeah, it always comes down to the money. So by doing that, Disney was allowed to get the first 4 films. Was it the end of May, I think it was, so that they could have them on their catalog in time for people to watch them and get excited for the new movie. So
makes sense.
Yeah.
I just had a good idea for the next movie, though.
What's that?
What?
It'll have to be whoever is the main character now in the series, whoever they decide to use going forward, but they're going to be looking for an artifact that Indiana left.
That would make sense.
Yeah. Nice.
That would be kind of fun. Like he's like, I've been in so many of these temples, I can build my own.
That would be pretty cool, and it would be kind of cool to see it being Short Round.
Yeah.
I think it would be
twist and change for things going forward.
Yeah, a lot of people thought he might have been in this film.
Yeah, but I guess he was the reason he wasn't, or one of the main reasons he wasn't, is because he was filming the other Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
So, but it was a good decision, apparently, based off of what they were trying to accomplish with this one.
Yeah, and they said that in the time frame of Indiana Jones. So the second movie that came out with Short Round in it actually takes place temporally like 3 years before the first movie that came out. So Short Round was in that, but then he wouldn't have been in the movie that came out earlier, but was actually chronologically took place later. He wasn't around. So it made sense that, he wasn't still in Indy's life for one reason or another. And maybe he set off on his own to do his own thing.
Yeah. Temple of Doom is supposed to be a prequel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something that they didn't really mention.
Well, it shows in the, cause we watched that a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. We watched the first 2 movies, and at the start of the at the start of the first one and the second one, they have the date. And you can see that
which people generally don't pay too close attention to.
No, right.
So
but we happen to see it. Right, because we happen to see it and watch the first one, and then watching the second movie right after that, when the date popped up, I'm like, hey, I didn't realize that was supposed to be taking place like 3 years before the other one. That's interesting. So
yeah, that is interesting. Like when I watch a Indiana Jones movie, I to Chris's point, I really don't look at the date. I just look at the set surroundings, and I'm like, old people times.
Yeah, that usually gives you like the cue without having to put the date on there. Unless you're watching The Witcher, in which case you've got to get more complicated.
Who started that? We'll have to save that for our next episodes of The Witcher. At some point, we'll have to do an episode.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And a lot of times that works, but if you're doing like a movie where they take place, a couple years apart, it's going to be really hard to identify enough differences in what's going on, unless you're like, 2019 and then 2020, and you see everybody 1 year without masks, and the next year everybody's walking around.
Like we know exactly what happened then. Yeah.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. Anyway, Linda and I loved it. Our friend Katie Otten, who went with us to see it, loved it. Everybody in the theater applauded at the end of it. Everybody was really happy the way the show ended, and I think everybody was happy with all of the stuff that happened. It's a great summer entertainment fair, typical Indiana Jones, and if you like the Indiana Jones franchise, I guarantee you're going to love this one. So check it out.
Let us know down below.
I know we mentioned Avatar 2, but we'll have to catch that another episode another time. Indiana Jones was just that interesting.
Right. All right, folks. Thank you very much, and we will catch you all next time. See you later.
Bye.
Bullet no.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space or subscribe to us on YouTube. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit our gravity well.